Oh, looks like my mic was muted. Well, hey everyone, welcome back to another Wildwoods beekeeping chat. I hope everybody is having a good day today. It's been definitely a good bee day today over here in southeastern Alabama. We've been busy cleaning up the creek bee yard a little bit since, a lot of the hive zones there didn't go so well. And we just kind of picked everything. I took some of the equipment that was down at the creek. I brought it back up here because, there weren't any more bees in it. Most of the hives down there either absconded or they were too small. They died, and some of them got robbed out by other beehives, feral or other ones in apiary, smaller hives that got robbed out. But tonight, the main topic tonight's going to be beekeeping mistakes. And a lot of these mistakes I've made in the past, and some even this year. Small ones that still can impact your beekeeping industry, that can impact some of the things that you're doing, and it's something good to think about. We do appreciate any super stickers, super chats that anybody puts down in the comment section, and that's basically what's been going on today. We're going to talk about beekeeping mistakes. All of these mistakes I have made. And I have a chart, like a little list on my notes that I have about 6 of them, and then I'll add a couple more as extra just to share with you guys tonight. Like I said, I went out to the BR today. We're about down to about, I forgot, I don't really know. Maybe it's about 7, maybe 6 hives, something like that. I think it's 7 though, because when I saw them, another one of my hives absconded. So one thing that I will mention, I don't know if it's really a mistake or it's just something that sometimes happens that we do gotta be cautious about. So sometimes you'll go in your hives and you'll see a small hive. And this is what I'm going to do from now on. So you see a small hive and you don't really think much about it. I don't think much about it, and I probably should, but sometimes you don't think much about it. But then the next day you don't see any more bees in there, and that was the case for today. I went out to just a small nuke. It really didn't have many bees in it. But what I saw was they absconded from what I know. I don't know if they died or got robbed out, but I was in them the day before, just looked around. They looked fine. I saw a couple beetles. I didn't see much, but then the next day, I went and I saw a whole bunch of beetles. So one day it went from, how many beetles? Maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9, maybe even 10. To the next day, even more than that. So, it really, something happens like that. One thing that I got to be more cautious about, which is the beetles, because that's been a big issue this year. Down here in Alabama, we've been having big issues with hive beetles. I don't know why. It's just been really a bad season for them. I don't know, really, just maybe the year's different. One of my hives, it's a good decent hive. It got honey bound. We're gonna be talking about these mistakes, and that's one of them, honey bound situations. But anyway, I had a hive that had a good bit of honey in it. It was kind of honey bound, so I had to fix them. But the hive that has had the biggest beetle issue so far. The whole top of the hive is full of them. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've put beetle blasters in there, and for some reason it's not enough. So I saw this video on Bruce's Bees, Bruce down there in Dothan, Alabama. I saw a different way that he did it. I forgot exactly what it was. I gotta go back and watch the video. I haven't really been able to watch so many bee videos lately, just because I've been really busy doing other things in my own bee yard and other things on here. But from what I could see, it was some kind of strips that I think it was like paper towels or something. I forgot exactly what it was, but a different way to fix and treat this beetle issue. So I'm going to try that because I saw that he had some good success with it. So, we'll see if we can do that and try to solve the issues. Because we've been down here in Alabama, there's some big beetle issues. This is a big year for them. I have a lot of times you'll see the beetle larvae in the cells wiggling around in there. They are so aggravating, but it's not much that we can really do. The only thing we can do, one thing what I mean by that is one thing that we can't do is get rid of them for good, because we're going to have hive beetles in our hives. And the main reason is because that's where hive beetles live. That's how they're here today. It's because of beehives. But one way of treating them is to put beetle blasters. You got beetle barns. You got some other ways. The other way I mentioned earlier about Bruce's way, I forgot what it was. I think putting some kind of paper towel on it and letting beetles get stuck to it. Something like that. I can't say for sure. Don't want to say the method wrong, but I'll go back and watch the video and see what he says there, because I forgot the name or something, the way he did it. But anyway, that's really what's been going on down here lately. We've just been dealing with all that stuff. Beetles. We haven't really had too much mite issues, but we got to get out there and treat. And I'm going to get some Abavar in here soon, just to, treat them. Dixie H700 towels. I think that's what it is, Brian. Thanks for telling me that. I forgot exactly the name of them, but I think that's it. Let's see. I use the IPK Beetle Trap Oil bottom boards from Green Beehives for my hives. No issues with beetles or moss. Oh, that's pretty good. I'll have to look into that. Lately I've just been using beetle blasters. They work fine. I find that they do catch some good beetles, but whenever you have those top beetle issues, it sometimes can get very, very difficult to treat them. So let's go ahead and start out with the beekeeping mistakes. And what I mean, these beekeeping mistakes I've made, most of them I have, maybe not all of them, but some of them I have, and I have 6 on here. Well, we may add a couple more, and I made a chart on here, so let's just say about 5 mistakes, but these are big ones. And some of them you may not be thinking about right now. So some of you may say, of course there's my issues on here, but it's not just that. There's some other ones on here that you probably never thought about. If you have thought about it, you probably did. It's not a big topic in today's world in the beekeeping industry. Most of them are something really good to think about, and some of them are not really heard, but they are still something to think about, because then it could impact your beekeeping industry for sure. So let's start out with number 1 on my list, which is, this might sound kind of awkward, but it's still something to think about, which is oversplitting. What I mean by that is splitting your bee yard to a point where your hives all your nukes that you make are too small. And this can be an issue, and the reason why this can be an issue, if you split those hives, like 1 frame, even 2 frames of bees, and make them too small, like let's just say you got a 10 frame box. Maybe you got 1 hive, you're trying to expand to about 11, and you make 1 2 frame splits with that 1 hive. You're left with 1 frame splits. And it can be done. If you can buy queens, it can be done. I've never tried it. I've done 2 frame splits. I didn't really have much success with it. Why? Well, because I try to let the bees make their own queens. That takes 4 weeks. It really doesn't go well. So whenever you're thinking about it, if you have 1 frames of bees in that hive and you're introducing a cell, if you put mated queen, maybe you buy a queen before you make the splits, you can pull it off. But let's just say you're trying to use virgin queens, or let them make their own queen. Maybe a lot of times, whenever you make those oversplitting, what can occur is all those small splits there's a couple things that can happen. They can get too small, and one thing you got to think about it: the queen lays 1,000 eggs per day, and the thing we always got to think about is that it takes 21 days for the bees to hatch. So that's a long time. So you want a good force of workers in there, young bees, decent size, some good worker bees in there, and a good queen to make over those bees, because those bees that you have in there, they're only going to last about a month. So if you average that, if you introduce a cell, and 2 weeks later she hatches, let's see, how long does it take for a cell to hatch? It takes about 16 days. Let's say you put it on there and she has 4 days to hatch. Just add another 2 weeks on there. That's 16 days for that queen to hatch, emerge, stay in a hive, and go out and mate. And then you got to think about how long it takes for the bees to hatch. So I gotta add all this up. So 21 days. Let me get my calculator because I don't want to calculate this wrong, which I'm averaging it about a month, somewhere around there. So let's just say we have 16 plus 21 equals 37 days. That's a little over a month. And all those old bees will be gone. And it can become a problem where your hive may get too small and, die. So there's just one good thing to split. So whenever you make your splits, make sure you make a strong split. Don't make it too weak of a split. That's just one thing. You can make 2-frame splits, but if you're going to make 2-frame splits or even a 1-frame split, one thing I would highly suggest to do is I would highly suggest you don't, let the bees raise their own queen, because in that month of them not having a queen, all those bees are probably going to die, and you won't have no more bees. I have that problem. That's happened to me, and I know that is an issue because it's happened to me. It actually happened to me a couple months ago, where with those 2-frame splits I made, it didn't go well, and the reason is because I didn't make them strong enough. So when you make your splits, make sure you don't overdo it, and make sure you make a good split. Make sure you don't do it too weak. That's just one good thing to talk about. It's something that a lot of people don't hear. I don't hear it all the time. But it is just something good something good to think about. Put in your mindset about that. And yeah, that's one thing that's happened to me over the past over the past all the time, It's happened, and it does happen all the time to other beekeepers when you make, I've heard it sometimes, making small splits. So if it's just, make it simple and unique, is just to make your splits as strong as you need to make them. So you don't want to make them too weak. You also want to make them to the point where you can make a lot of them. So the best way I find good success is about a free 4-frame split. Anywhere below that there is a 50-50 chance that nukes can make it, because they are smaller. Other stronger hives have the opportunity, especially in the DERF. I have problems doing that in the DERF as well. DERF, if you're doing that in a DERF, I would highly suggest, if you're even thinking about doing a more weaker split and introducing a queen, I would suggest to do that in spring, whenever you have everything's blooming. Because if you're doing that in the DERF where there's no nectar, that can induce a risk for that hive to be robbed. And why? Because it can be harmful sometimes. Yeah, I agree with you, Bruce. During certain times of the year, can make smaller splits, but during a DERF, best to do stronger splits. Yeah, that's one thing that I always suggest. So if you're in the time of the year, a perfect year, you got things blooming, and in that time of the year, it's perfect where you can pull off weaker splits. So what I mean by these weaker splits is, you guys kind of know, I've been going down this route of letting the bees raise their own queen. How long? It takes about 16 days for them to make the queen, 21 days, 2 weeks to get mated, 21 days to hatch, and you can't imagine how many bees get lost in that time. And you can pull letting them make their own queen off in a 4-frame, 5-frame split where you got a good, decent sized hive. But, if you're going to make a split, for now on, I'm going to be either buying queens or I'm going to be introducing cells, because that's the best way to do it. Letting them raise their queen, naturally, hey, it's fine. It works out. And it works out for the bees that like a full hive, but for a small one frame hive, that can be kind of risky. And you know, by the time that queen hatches, this is what I found. Whenever I let them raise their own queen, in that time, I find that whenever that queen hatches, there's about this many bees in the hive. That's it. And when that virgin queen hatches and you have that, it takes about 2 weeks for that queen to get mated. So once that queen comes back, it's gonna be nothing in there. And that's what I have found over the past year. So that's just a small thing to note. Of course, it ain't a big topic, but I think it is something worth to mention. Making two small splits in bad times of the year. So you gotta, whenever you're making your splits, like I said, you got to determine the time of year you are in. If you're in a DERF, better to do stronger splits. If you are in certain times of the year where it's not as hot and you have flowers blooming, there is a possibility you can pull off very, very more smaller splits. But I thought that was just something good to mention because, a lot of times, the reason why I was doing that, and a lot of times people will do this, in my case, was because I wanted to try to save some money, just to let the bees raise their own queen. But doing that, I found that doesn't really work that good. It may work for other people, but it is something that, is good to think about and make sure that, maybe that way is not a good way of doing it. To make it brief, simple. Now let's get into more of the ones that are more known into the beekeeping industry that a lot of people always talk about. So now let's talk about taking too much honey in the fall. And a lot of times during the fall, we're getting goldenrod. Down here, at least, we're getting goldenrod. And a lot of times beekeepers will take way too much honey during the fall. And while this can pose a threat, not just to us down here, but for people up north, this really does go for more people up north, is if you take too much honey off in the fall, you won't leave them with enough during the winter. Of course, you can't fix this. You can feed them. But if you're that person who just really wants to let them go naturally into winter, no feeding, no nothing, the best way to naturally overwinter them is leave them some honey on board. If you take all the honey, those bees are really likely they're going to run out of food. I've had that happen before. It happens all the time. All the time in beekeeping, when a new beekeeper takes all the honey off in fall, and they get into winter, they notice that their bees, they're digging their heads into the cells because they don't got no food. And that's one that's known all the time. So just think about it. Whenever you're, pulling off honey, let's say you put on, let's see here, maybe you pull off, you have 4 supers on the hive. It really depends. If you are in the north, like real up north, like maybe where Frederick Dunn is, or even higher up there, Canada even, some of those northern states and up more in Canada, be a good idea just to leave maybe 2 supers on, maybe even more. I don't really know the climate for Canada and but what I'm just saying, from what I can tell, it's good just to leave a little honey on board, not to take every single thing that the bee house have. Down here in Alabama, I usually like to leave them a super of honey if they do make any honey. If I'm not able to make any honey or something, then I'll feed them anyway because they didn't make the crop I wanted them to. So while you're in there, add on a couple supers, let them fill them up. If you put on 3 and you're down here in Alabama, Louisiana, some of the southern states, I like to just pull off probably 2 and leave the other one on for the bees. So then bees will have some honey on board. And it also ain't a really bad idea if you make up a sugar brick and put it in the hive. That will also help them out a lot as well. Just a good thing to think about. It's very controversial, though. I do want to mention that. It's a very controversial topics here that we'll be discussing tonight. But I do like anybody's opinion on the subject. I think more things that people say will teach other people more things, because there's always more. There's there's more ways of doing things than just one way. I hear about it all the time. Like, you can only do this way. You can only do this way. These are really just my opinions and my go for on it. Mistakes that I think should be avoided. And I try to pick these mistakes and that, I know that I've made these mistakes. I know there are mistakes that are probably happening right now. So, don't get my word out. And I'm not trying to get my word out in the wrong way. Just trying to help beekeepers figure out some things that could possibility that could injure their beekeeping industry. So, like I've made mistakes. I've tried to share my mistakes. Of course, all of us want to share our mistakes. I tried to share mistakes. All these mistakes are ones that I've made, by the way, and these are ones that I want to share out to other beekeepers so then they don't make those mistakes the same as I did. It's don't want anybody experiencing that. So yeah, leave a little honey on for winter. That's just one thing. And I've heard a lot of people say it, and that's where I've learned it from other people on these other live chats. During fall, just leave a little bit on for the bees if you're going down that natural way of overwintering, entering in them, and that can be something worth thinking about. So we got a question down here, and I'm going to go and answer that. And you guys down there can put your opinions in the comment section below. I think all the opinions are really good. I think a lot of times we just need to let the bees be bees, thoughts. So yeah, a lot of times, we don't think about that. We don't think about letting the bees be bees for a chance. So, every time, let's just put it that way, I'm out in the bees all the time, doing things. We can make experiments out. So, like, you guys in the comments, anybody who, out there in the bee yard, take one half, do everything that you need to do with it. You could treat it, you could do whatever you want to. And then the other half that you have, maybe you have a couple halves. At least save one, and don't really do anything to it. Just see what happens if you let the bees, just be, how they would be in the wild. Of course, if it comes too bad in that problem and you want to do something, I guess it wouldn't be bad to do it. But for the time being, I would just say take one half and set it out, let them be bees, because out in the wild we have bees and we haven't been able to figure it out yet. How bees can survive out in the wild and then they're thriving, like that. Have I found in that camper? How did they get to wherever they are without any help? Well, nobody's really figured that out. Nobody's really went into that. And then we have our hives over here, but a lot of them are, dying and stuff. So, it's really hard thing to think about. But if you guys can think about it, take one hive of yours and just see what happens. Experiment. If you have 10 halves, just leave one half and see what happens if you don't treat for mites and if you don't do some of that stuff. And just let bees be bees. And I think that'd be a good experiment for all of us to do and see what happens. And, we have other ways to, let the bees be bees. And that's one way of, being a natural beekeeper. And that's a good thing to do. I don't treat all the time. The only time when I will treat is if the bees really need it. If I think that the bees don't need it, if I test them and I only see one or two mites, I'll still treat them if I really need to. But sometimes I just, let them go. If they have 13, 20, even more mites, first off, I'm gonna go ahead and treat them because they have too much of a mite count. But if they have a really low mite count and a really good thing going on, then I'll just leave them be for the time being. So yeah, if you guys have your opinions on that, you might be able to pronounce it a little bit better. It's just basic for some of the beginner beekeepers who just want to know some of the basics. If you guys have opinions, I think all the opinions are welcome. But that's a good experiment. That would be good to try. And being, we've always talked about it. Like, whenever, have you guys ever wondered? So just think about it. Have you guys ever wondered how bees out in the wild survive better than the ones in our beehives? And I've never really been able to, get to the bottom of it, really. I've thought about different things. We've thought about different things. But it's a good thing to think about. Just think about it, and because these bees out in the wild, they're not being treated. They don't really have that bad of beetle issues, and they're still there. They're still thriving. Then I'm trying to compare the hives out in the wild to the bees in my backyard, and what's going on with those wild bees. Maybe this is something cool to think about. So whenever you have a fair hive and they're doing good, see what their mite counts are whenever you get them. See what they are, and bring them back to your beehive and see how they do. If they do a little bit different out of their regular habitat or something like that. I've always thought about that, and something good to think about. So if you guys have any thoughts on that, I think that'd be good, and we'd learn something. Everybody would, I think. So I'm gonna go ahead and get to some of the next one. This one I've mentioned these mistakes all of the time. I've made them too. I've made them all the time, which is feeding mistakes. And and what I mean by feeding mistakes is improperly feeding them. And what I mean by this is feeding by the entrance. So there sometimes a lot of times, whenever you're going down, feeding them, sometimes you will feed them from the entrance. And this is the most popular feed, one of the popular feeders, which is entrance feeders, as everybody knows. But the reason why I don't use these is because whenever I've mentioned this all the time. I'm sure a lot of people get bored of me saying it, but something that I've found and I've learned from other beekeepers, and I know this is something that happens. So whenever you're in a dearth, if you drop any little bit of honey or sugar water, something sweet. There was one time where I left the Dr. Pepper can out at her granddad's house, which is about not too far away from our beard, and there's bees going into it trying to find some sweets. And isn't it interesting? And in Dr. Pepper, in one of those in those cans that you can get at any kind of a different thing. And when you do that entrance feed, it's like anything. Once those bees go to that, entrance feeder, you got a good chance that those bees are going to rob that other hive. And you have a feeding frenzy on that hive because in the dearth, bees are very, very they're desperate for honey, that they're willing to go to other hives and rob them out, killing all the bees, killing the queen. I really don't know how that all goes down, really. Killing the queen, killing most all the bees, and then taking all the honey when they go in there. And then when you see that, you'll see a lot of chewed wax on it. You'll see all the honey gone. You probably see no honey in the hive. You probably see no honey in the hive, and that's how it really happens all the time. And something good to think about as well. Entrance feeding, and never feeding mistakes is this is one that I've done before, which is feeding a little bit too much. There's a sweet spot for feeding, you know what I mean? You guys probably can relate. So if you feed way too much, maybe you feed 20 gallons. That is a lot, but a lot of times we may overdo it. A lot of times, all of us sometimes will overdo it. I've overdone it. I had to have that. I overfed, and the outcome to this is those bees become honey bound. And people will say, well, that's probably not that bad. It really doesn't matter if your bees are honey bound. And the reason why I found this a big issue, and you guys will know and relate to this, that whenever your bees become honey bound, all the honey is in there. though that queen doesn't have anywhere to lay. And when that happens, your queen won't have nowhere to lay, means not much brood in the hive. So when you have that, your numbers will start to decline by a significant, numbers. Your bees will start dwindling down, and then they may, perish if you don't, swap out some of the frames and give them some open, nice comb to work with for the queen. Something that I've happened a lot. So when you get a honey-bound hive, simple thing to do: go out there and remove some of the frames that have all the honey. Set it out. Maybe either give it to weaker hives that don't have much honey, or just set it out and let all the other bees rub it out if you're in the dirt or something. Of course, you can leave a couple frames in there of honey. I would leave about 2-3 frames of honey in there, and then give them some new comb to work with, so then that queen can lay and keep the hive going. If that hive is honey bound and all is honey in there, 120 pounds of honey, then your queen can't lay anymore. And what happens then? The queen walks around, tries to find a cell to lay in, and your hive starts to both dwindle. So that's just one thing always good to think about, is overfeeding. So by knowing this, is whenever you feed, of course, this does not matter as much whenever you get more into winter. I do want to mention that. I almost forgot to mention it. It doesn't really matter if you're going into winter. Why? Because those bees are probably not really thinking about raising any bees anyway. Of course, you might want to leave it two frames of there in that hive if you're down south. Let the bees raise a couple frames of brood. But you probably can, in winter, you can go with 6 frames of, maybe even 8 frames of honey, or your sugar water that you feed. So it's not a big issue in winter because those bees will need it anyway. But if you're in spring, summer, and even in fall, so a lot of times in fall, those bees are trying to raise the bees' physiology. That's really a crucial time to make sure that they do have enough food, but they don't have too much food. So a good way to doing this is to not take too much honey in the first place, like we talked about earlier, taking too much honey. So make sure you don't take too much honey to the point where you don't have to feed. That's one good thing to think about. So if you don't take all the honey, you don't have to feed, and you also don't got to really worry about that. So, like in fall, you got everything that coming in, but if you take everything off and then you feed, it's just a good thing to think about. So, not taking all the honey and not feeding way too much during early fall. You can feed a little bit more really late fall, really late fall, where you're getting more into like 55-degree nights. Just all depends on where you live, on your temperatures and stuff. But I thought that was pretty interesting, something good to think about, and a little bit to learn off from. It's happened to me where a lot of times I get honey-bound hives, and it ain't a secret fix. The only thing you got to really do, go in there and take out all your honey-bound frames, and swap them out with some good comb. I think that's a really good thing to do. Let's see. Next thing will be queen issues. So I've talked about all these things I'm talking about tonight. I've already mentioned them in videos, but I thought I'd put it together and make a good live stream out of it. So, queen issues. What very bad thing can happen with this? Queen issues, something that happens all the time. Keeping check on your queen. A lot of times, beekeepers, whenever they notice a very bad brood pattern, they don't really think much of it, and then let it go on. And then it's good to immediately, whenever you see a queen issue, go ahead and kill the queen, and be able to go ahead and replace her. I think that's the most important thing to do, is whenever you see a failing queen that's going in the wrong direction, that probably shouldn't be going on to, and it's always your personal preference. If you think that your queen is, failing, or she has some issues, you can go ahead and pinch her and replace her. But one thing I would also think about is I would not replace a queen just because of the temperament. Of course, it is something that, a lot of times people don't want the bad temperament, but it's really hard to say. It's really controversial. But, whenever you have the bad temperaments, it could be caused off of anything. You know what I mean? You guys know it could be caused off of it could be caused off of the dearth. A lot of times bees become a little bit more, defensive during the dearth. Down here in Alabama, all of us beekeepers have a lot of spicy bees during the dearth. Like me, I know Lisa probably does. I know Lee. All really southern bees are a little bit more spicier than generally they're more spicier than bees up north. Most of the times, I find that they are a little bit more spicier. I know Bruce has some spicy bees, but I really don't think, for me, and a lot of the local beekeepers around here, really the temperament isn't the main issue why we're trying to replace queens. I think the main reason why we're trying to kill or replace queens every year is to replace that queen in that time. Maybe she's getting too old, and you want to make sure that your hive will go. A lot of times, beekeepers replace their queens every year because they don't want their queen to fail. Most queens will last a good year or two, maybe even 3 if that queen is mated well. But I don't like to just pinch a queen just because of the temperament. I know a lot of people will, and before you got to level the factors, you got to level: are you in a dearth? Do your bees got food? Are you in a time that bees don't really not really as mean? And you also got to think about whenever you have your smaller hive, always those smaller nukes are not going to be as defensive as a double deep or a single. So you got to think about it. If you got a nuke, 5-frame nuke, not many bees in it. There is a good number of bees, but not that much that they are going to be really that rowdy to you. But then once they get into a double deep, maybe even a single, that's whenever they start getting a little bit more agitated and a little bit more defensive, because they have to be, because they are a little bit stronger than they were. And they're stronger, they got more brood to protect, they got more honey to protect, they got more space to protect. They need to level up their defenses. So, just always think about all the little things that can go on and make your bees a little bit more spicy. So if you have a nuke and they're nice, main reason why they're so nice is because they're not that big. Then once you go to double deep and you see that they're so mean, it's because they're that big. So good way to before you kill that queen is try to limit your bee's space. And I don't mean limit it to a very small amount, but limit it to where your bees won't be, to the point where, you want to kill the queen. It's really always really does depend on the beekeeper. If the beekeeper wants to let the hive grow and be a really massive hive, a lot of space for the bees to move around and do whatever they need, and that beekeeper doesn't really matter if those bees become more spicier, that's the way you should go. But if you're growing your hive and you see that, hey, I don't want to deal with bad temperament, so a good way to do that is probably keep your bees in a single deep, because a single deep is a basketball size cluster, or size of the brood chamber or the brood nest. If you double that, you double or maybe even triple the defenses that the bees are going to put at you. So that's a good thing to think about. Whenever you're going to try to kill one of your queens, make sure you weigh the consequences. Make sure you level the reasons behind it. Maybe there could be a lot of different reasons why your bees are more spicy. Like I said, could be in a dearth. Could be that they're bigger than they were whenever you had them in a nuke. Maybe even smaller. You just gotta level all the things that are going on in that certain time. If it's in spring, your bees are big and they're mean, that's probably because they're bigger and they could be another genetic. But your bees may be Italian, and you're in the spring, and they are so nice in a double deep. They're one of your nicest hives, and they're in a double deep. Then you get into the dirt, July, late June, and August, and you see next time you go into your hive the uh, that the bees will get you a little bit better. They'll try to be stinging. They'll be all around your veil, and a lot of times, not just because they're genetic, a lot of times it is. A lot of times we can just guess it that they're Russian. I can. But before you kill that queen, wait till the next year whenever you get into spring, so then you can see what happened the year before. So just a lot of different ways to do it. It's really hard to talk about it because there's a lot of different methods for resolving the issue. Main thing is keeping the bees probably at a basketball-sized cluster. That's the best way of doing it. Overwintering them in that, and keeping your configuration around that with how many ever sleepers you want to have on it. So yeah. So I'm gonna get on. I got probably a couple more questions down there. If you guys have any more questions down there, please put them in because I'm gonna answer them more later on to the end of the live stream so we can end it off a little bit better. I'm gonna do a couple more of my mistakes. Then we'll go on to some of the questions if you have any questions. So this is one that I found that happens a lot, and it's failing to improve beekeeping knowledge. So you got those beekeepers who are out there, they quickly watch a YouTube video, and this is how I was. So it's not just other beekeepers. This is actually kind of was me a little bit. But then I decided to learn more. So, I got into beekeeping. I think I watched a couple YouTube videos and got some bees. I think that's what we did. I can't really remember really correctly, but that's what we did. And at that time, we didn't know much about bees. We should have learned a little bit more before we got bees, but we didn't. There's a reason for that. And we got bees, and then we watched a couple videos, and that's it. And we really didn't. I guess at that time I wasn't really trying to learn anything new. And then I decided I would because I knew that I probably should. And that's good that I did because, you don't have to, you can read books. So I like to read books. But you may be that person who doesn't want to read books or something. But it's really, books are one of the best ways to learn from something. So I would highly recommend for anybody who's new, go ahead and get a book. And you can, learn a lot of things about bees. Another way I find that you can learn bees really good is watching these live chats. Like, you got Bruce, Greg, and Brian, like the stream team on Wednesday. You got some other guys. I know Lee and Bob do theirs on Tuesday. You can learn some stuff on there. So if you take an hour, maybe even 2 hours just to watch one of those live streams and see what you can learn in that, you may learn a lot of new things from that beekeeper. There's a lot of different ways of learning something. I must say that there's a lot of different ways to learn how to make splits. There's a lot of different methods for making splits, and there's more than one way of doing something. So something I may say may be wrong, and you may be able to make a better way to do something. So like I was talking about earlier, I used to make my splits for 4 weeks. It took 4 weeks for the bees to about 4 weeks to make the queen, and that was terrible. I did not. And now I wish I never done that. And something that did not work out really that good. And it's a mistake that I made. I should have figured out a better way to do it. So maybe I should have used cells. I should have made stronger splits. Because a lot of my splits, I made them either earlier or later. So I made some of them like even in June, July. And there's a lot of different things that I did. Main thing is I made them way, way too small. Those 2-frame splits you guys saw, those never really worked out that good. I don't know really why it didn't go so well, but it sometimes things don't go as planned. I must say that it really doesn't go as planned as you really want them to. Sometimes that happens. And one thing to uh, think about is, just improve beekeeping knowledge. So, like, whenever I got into beekeeping, like I said, I wasn't really worried on learning. A lot of times other people are. So, one thing I would always highly suggest is just to, even me, I want to improve my beekeeping knowledge. So, that's why I'm here. I'm not here just to teach you guys something. Hopefully, here to share a little bit to you guys, and you guys can give me some more feedback. So, I would like some more feedback on different ways to make splits. So some of you guys on here are really good experience, maybe even better experience than me. It sometimes happens. Yeah, that's one good thing that Earl says on there. Never goes my way easily. One thing that's a good way to always think about it. It never goes the way you want it to. Whenever you want something to go the right way, it goes the opposite way. But one thing we got to think about, there's a reason why some of our things are not going so well. So our mistakes, like my mistakes right now, I'm not, what's the word? I don't really know the word I would want to use. Sad about it, guilty about it, or put down about the mistake. It's something that I'll learn off of. I think whenever you guys make a mistake, just tell yourself that, hey, I made this mistake, but maybe in the future I can improve on this mistake and not make it again. So, like, in the next couple of years, if I follow this mistake and do a different way, I may end up somewhere, 200 hives, maybe even more than that, maybe even less than that, 100 hives, So there's a reason for everything. It's always good to, improve your knowledge a little bit. Make sure you learn new things. Go on these live chats and learn things. It's always a good way to do it. 5 ways: right way, right way, wrong way, your way, my way, and everybody else's way. Yeah. And I had something scheduled for tonight. I don't know how many people are going to be on here to do this. So if you guys can, before we get on to the last one, and I'll talk about it. I got a giveaway that I want to do tonight. It's a poster that my brother did. I'll show it here. Cool little thing. You don't want to show too much of it. You can pause it if you want to really look at it. But it's just a little poster that my brother made on a little thing, and we printed it out. We're going to give it away tonight. We have super chats and super stickers that get donated, so that will help for shipping and stuff. So we're going to do that tonight. Let me get everything situated. I can't see. Hopefully I can do it. You guys give me just a second to get this thing going. This may not go as I really want it to. If it doesn't go today, it may have to be next week. Well, I have everything set up. I had one thing set up, but it's not letting me choose anything. So let me try to redo this. There we go. StreamYard. Oh, oopsie daisies. I didn't mean to do that. Bear with me, guys, just for a second. I wish I had somebody else here talking. Oh, well, that may not be something, that may not work out. But we may have to do this next time. Let's see here. Let me just see if I can do this. It's not letting me do anything here. Oh, that's weird. But so we're probably going to have to do this next week because it's not really going well. I wish it was. I wish it was going the way I wanted it to. But the StreamYard won't work for some reason. But, sometimes happens. Well, we got a $10 donation. Thanks, Earl, for that. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Well, all the donations go to beekeeping stuff. I got one more thing to talk about, and there may be other live streams going on. We'll let y'all get to other things. I kind of put this up there at last minute, so not many people might not be able to go on it. And I think that's it for the mistakes. I don't see any more on here. So I got a question up here, and let's see if I can pull it up. Can you overstress the bees splitting too much, taking on them too much? Agriculture seems to me you could. Well, that's a good topic. I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to bring that up tonight, but I must have forgot. But a lot of times I've always mentioned this before, whenever you go out to check on your bees, try to limit, how many times you go out there. So what I mean by limit is I don't mean not going out there for a year. That's probably not, you probably don't really want to do that. Better way to go is probably once a month, maybe every 2 weeks, something around there. Sometimes I get the habit of going out there every couple of days, but I'm trying to get better at that. But whenever you're looking onto doing that, trying to figure out not to stress your bees, there's a possibility, because whenever you're going in there every day, you're pretty much disrupting what's going on in there. We can all picture that. But it is a very big possibility. I can't talk all about it. Everybody can give their thoughts on that. I think it's a good thing to think about. And I think it is a possibility. And I think it's actually 100% possibility that if you go in there too much, it can disrupt some of the things that go on. Sometimes if you go in there every day for a couple months, those bees will up and decide, hey, let's just abscond and leave here because, we're getting in there too much. But, definitely something good to think about. Good topic. I got one more question on here, and we're going to go and wrap this thing up. I've had this question a lot, and I'm going to answer it another time because I know Earl and a lot of other people weren't on here on the times where I did answer it. Grayson, how did your honey pull go this season? So far, we've had honey in the hives, not that much. But the main reason is this year I went towards splitting. As all of you know, we got to decide, do we want to go towards the splitting route, or do we want to go towards the honey? And I guess I decided the splitting, so I split it, and that didn't really go so well. But hey, sometimes it doesn't go so well. And then I wasn't able to pull much honey this year, so we're going to try to get a fall harvest. If we can't this year, we're going to try to improve some things next year. This year, we were cleaning up our creek BR, trying to get everything set up down there, trying to get some good things. And yeah, that's kind of how everything went. Oh, built harvest season. How many halves have you grown? How many have you grown up to? I think you mean halves. I've expanded to the highest I've had this season is about, like with queens, about 10 or 11, maybe even 12. But a lot of those got robbed out and were small and weak. So right now I'm around 7. And I'll probably end up back where I was, which, hey, it doesn't really matter to me. Next year, I can always expand more, but in a better way. Expand a little bit different. Expand in a better way. And yeah, definitely something good to think about. I know we haven't reached exactly an hour. Usually I like to cut these things off at an hour, but I think I'll go ahead and end it off here tonight. Just because I got to get going and eat supper and all the other things. I do appreciate all the super chats tonight. I appreciate everybody who jumped in. I know we had Bruce, we had Earl in here, we had Michael, we had Lisa, we had Lee, we had a lot of different folks. Also we had a lot of local people around here, like Bruce. It's always good to get opinion off of another beekeeper that do things and around in your local area. So whenever we're talking about different stuff, get some feedback from your local beekeepers, see what they have to say about everything. But thanks everybody for checking in. I know it's been a busy season, but we're still improving in a lot of different things. I haven't really been able to upload many videos. I had a recent video lately about a situation that occurred in bee yard. It was really weird, but it's worth for to watch. Go ahead and check that video out. I think that'd be a good video for you guys to check out. It's one of my most recent video about a couple days ago. Go over there, give a thumbs up. And before y'all check out, go ahead and give this stream a thumbs up. That will help, this get out to more audiences. Thanks everybody coming in, DC, Michael, Bruce, everybody else who I'm forgetting. Catch you guys on the next beekeeping live chat video. Get more videos out there soon. Thanks everybody. Take care.